Hello, it's Phillip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. Today I'm looking at a book from Jordan Publishing which I think is very useful for both criminal and civil practitioners and anybody involved in local government work as well on a professional or advisory basis. It's a book about anti-social behaviour, the new regime. It'll be written by two people. One's a judge, the other's a barrister, Anesh, Pema and Justin Crossley. It's available as an ebook. My wife Elizabeth and I talked about this in some detail because we're well aware of certainly the changes that are taking place. I'll show you the book in a minute. Our review of this work is entitled The New Regime on Anti-Social Behaviour, Expertly and Clearly Explained in Practical Terms for 2015. Let's look at the book first. It's an A4 format. You can see it there, heavy. There's the spine and then there's the back, which is just a statement of what's actually in the work itself. It runs to 400 odd pages. There are lots of appendices. There is a nice little index at the back. And you've got, as I say, a large number of appendices, which we'll talk about. Let me just explain when I get to the beginning of it, that in fact the book itself is not a particularly big book because the appendices start here, and that's with precedence. Now you can see even there that the vast bulk of the book actually is appendices dealing with various orders and the legislation and the rules and everything else. So I'll come on to that in a minute, but you can at least see that an awful lot of it goes to the actual basis in the appendices of how we've got to where we are today. That's the preface, which sets out why there have been changes and where we're going with that's the coalition government and then of course the new Conservative government. It starts off with an introduction, then you've got the civil injunctions, then criminal, the evidence required, publicity of injunctions, then you've got again a very wide range of areas, powers, then you've got the community trigger and of course a lot of the links specifically to the community side of it. Then you've got after that various other points, then the list of the appendices, and the final chapters are looking at new grounds for possession of a residential property, obviously concerning local council tenants. They're a list of the cases, not that many cases. Then statutes of course covered. Then after that European material as well as all linked in. Then you've got chapter 1, the background of the new legislation. Now what you've got here is paragraph numbering. You can see it there on the right hand side. Then after that you've got an overview of the Act and the new powers which have come in. This is the 2014 Act we're talking about, and then again there's another flow chart there, and then there's a civil regime itself. You do actually have, as you can see, footnotes there which link in, as to be expected, with the rules. These are civil criminal procedure rules referred to there, the relevant rules depending on what you're looking for. Then when you get into the actual appendices themselves, you've got the CPR, civil procedure rules, you've got all the usual rules, the criminal procedure rules you'd be expecting. Then you've got guidelines for frontline professionals. I think the guidelines are very helpful indeed, and this, as is usual with Jordan's, a very good, excellently researched book. As I've indicated, it's an ebook as well, which is very much the flavour of the month at the moment with many people because you don't have to lug this around with you. There's a lot of stuff too, and there will be stuff you can download, I would suspect, from the ebook. Now this is what we say about the book. This important new statement from Jordan's on the changes introduced by the Anti-Social Behaviour, Crime and Policing Act 2014 is most welcome for its clarity and expertise from 2015 with the actual carrying into force of the statute. But it'll certainly not be an end of parliamentary intervention in what is actually a difficult area of law, mixing as it does, and this is one of a number of areas now, both the criminal and the civil jurisdictions. The book offers a detailed practical analysis on the new legal framework as we begin a fresh era on how to deal with these essentially community-based problems which were viewed by our previous coalition government as needing some form of change between 2010 and 2015, and then the new Conservative government, which is now coming in May 2015, will see how the legislation goes, and then we'll see whether in fact any further changes will be required. I suspect that things will go quiet on this front for a while until we see how the new regime actually falls into place. The two authors, Anesh, Pema and Justin Crossley, if I pronounced the name correctly, my apologies if I haven't, they've written a highly competent and very helpful guide for all on the new legislation, and their purpose is to provide practical current advice to all those involved in dealing with antisocial behaviour, and also those who act on behalf of people accused of allegedly behaving anti-socially. So it's very useful for defence practitioners as well as those pursuing individual people. Pema and Crossley explain in very clear terms the new procedures and remedies available for lawyers and lay people alike. The methods they use are designed to be as straightforward as possible for those applying for or defending under the new regime. Of great help too, we thought, are the discussions on the preceding legislation together with the relevant case law decided under what are now the old provisions, which will assist all when it comes to interpretation, of course, of the new 2014 Act and how in practice it's going to be administered. There are 13 chapters in the first 100 or so pages, and the rest of the book comprises the 8 detailed appendices which I've shown you, which makes up the bulk of the book with a helpful index at the back. We found the practical know-how from these two professional experts on antisocial behaviour very helpful. The coverage of this important area of community law, where both criminal and civil jurisdiction unusually coincides, concentrates helpfully on the formulation of protocols and the creation of multi-agency working groups to the preparation and presentation of cases in court and, of course, the handling of the matter of breaches. And the modified regime on antisocial behaviour is given much more needed expert explanatory comment in this new work, and I think we're all very grateful for that as practitioners. It includes important time-saving practical materials such as draft applications, notices and orders, and all the relevant statutory provisions, including all the amendments that have taken place. We welcome the fact that the authors have given us an extra special service here so that we as lawyers and advisors have everything available as a short one-stop shop, being a well thought out successor to what was their earlier work, Anti-Social Behaviour, a special bulletin. Anyway, thank you very much to both authors. The law is as stated on the 15th of April 2015. Just to remind you again, here's the book, red cover. It's quite a heavy book, paperback. There it is. And that's the back of the book there. And then just opening it out, let's just have a quick look at some of the stuff. The sentencing guidelines are quite helpful, obviously for the criminal side. And I did say earlier, the statutory guidance for professionals I think is also very helpful, because I think there's an awful lot of difficulty in this area. The community trigger is particularly important because in this day and age with Twitter and all the other social media sites, you do get people with vendettas, so it's important to know how to deal with all of this. There we go, there's some information there about publicity of injunctions. We used to get a lot of that in both in Manchester, as they used to print the faces of people. Again, the Human Rights Act comes into that. We've also got things like how the evidence is actually adduced there, which I think is very important. Video, CCTV, professional witnesses, hearsay and so forth. There we are. It's a very good book. I'm most impressed with it, and I'm very grateful that Jordans have published it. So thank you to all concerned, and I'm sure this will be a great help to everybody involved in this area of practice. Bye-bye.